What do you call it when you show up, disappear, come back, fall off again, and then restart like nothing ever stuck? That's called rhythm, or more accurately, the lack of it. Because becoming isn't about starting. Most people can start. It's about what happens after the start. What happens when the energy fades? When structure isn't there? When the version of you that decided to change isn't the same version that has to follow through? That's where things break. Becoming doesn't happen all at once. It has a rhythm, and most people don't struggle because they're incapable. They struggle because they keep breaking that rhythm. There's this idea that change should feel immediate, that once you decide something, everything should start aligning. Your actions, your discipline, your mindset, it should all click. But that's not how it works. Becoming is not a moment, it's a pattern, and patterns take time to build. What most people experience isn't failure, it's interruption. They start something, feel the shift, feel the motivation, feel the direction, and for a moment it feels like something is changing. Then life happens. A bad day, a missed routine, a moment where they don't feel like showing up the way they planned to. And instead of continuing, they stop. Not because they can't continue, but because the rhythm was never solid enough to carry them through disruption. When you don't have rhythm, everything feels fragile. Every missed day feels like a reset. Every mistake feels like proof that it's not working. So you start over, again and again and again. But starting over isn't the issue. The issue is never staying long enough to establish rhythm. Because rhythm is what turns effort into identity. It's not what you do once. It's not what you do when you feel like it. It's what you return to consistently, even when the feeling is gone. This is where people confuse intensity with progress. They go all in for a few days, push harder than they need to, overload themselves with change, and then collapse under the weight of it. That's not rhythm. That's a spike. And spikes don't last. Rhythm is sustainable. Rhythm is repeatable. Rhythm doesn't require you to be perfect. It requires you to return. So instead of asking how to do more, you start asking what you can repeat. That question changes everything. Because once something becomes repeatable, it becomes stable. And once it becomes stable, it becomes part of you. You stop negotiating with it. You stop debating whether you feel like it. It just becomes something you do. Now here's where it gets deeper. Most people aren't just breaking rhythm because of external things. They're breaking it because internally, they haven't accepted the version of themselves they're trying to become. There's still a gap between who they see themselves as and who they're trying to act like. And that gap creates friction. So every action feels forced, every repetition feels unnatural. And when something feels unnatural long enough, you eventually stop doing it. That's why repetition matters so much. Not just for progress, but for identity alignment. The more you repeat something, the less foreign it feels. The less foreign it feels, the less resistance you experience. And the less resistance you experience, the more natural it becomes to continue. That's the shift. Not forcing yourself into change, but staying with it long enough that it starts to feel like you. Disruption is where this gets tested, because disruption is guaranteed. There will always be something that throws you off. A change in schedule, a drop in motivation, a moment where things don't go your way. And in those moments, you're faced with a decision. Do you return or do you reset? Most people reset. They treat disruption like a stopping point, like something that invalidates what they were building. But disruption isn't the end of rhythm. It's part of it. Real rhythm isn't perfect. It's resilient. It bends without breaking. You miss a day, you return. You lose focus, you return. You fall out of alignment, you return. That's the rhythm. Not perfection, return. And the more you return, the less disruption affects you. Because now you're not relying on momentum. You're relying on identity. There's also a misunderstanding about discipline. People think discipline is something you force in moments of resistance. But real discipline is built before resistance shows up. It's built in repetition. It's built in the quiet consistency of doing the same thing when it doesn't feel significant. Because when resistance does show up, you don't rely on willpower. You rely on what you've already established. And here's something most people overlook. Rhythm creates momentum, but momentum is not what sustains you. Identity is. Momentum can get you started. Identity keeps you going. At first, everything feels like effort. You have to think about it. You have to remind yourself. You have to push yourself into doing something that doesn't feel natural yet. But over time, that changes. Not because you pushed harder, but because you stayed longer. Familiarity turns into comfort. Comfort turns into default, and default becomes identity. That's when it stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like who you are. So how do we stay in rhythm when everything in us wants to break it? The first thing we do is reduce the action to something we can repeat without resistance. Not something impressive, not something that proves anything. Something simple enough that it doesn't depend on motivation. Because if the action depends on how you feel, you won't return to it consistently. But when the action is small and repeatable, you remove the barrier that usually stops you. This is where things become stable. You move away from bursts of effort and start building something that holds. The next thing we do is separate progress from emotion. Most people measure whether they're doing well based on how they feel while doing it. If it feels hard, they think something is wrong. If it feels easy, they think it's working. But rhythm isn't built on feeling. It's built on repetition. So when you stop letting your emotions decide whether you continue, you create consistency. You're no longer reacting to your state, you're moving with intention. Then we shorten the gap between falling off and returning. This is where most people lose everything. They miss one day and turn it into a week. A week turns into a month, not because they can't go back, but because they delay the return. Rhythm isn't maintained by never falling off. It's maintained by how quickly you come back. The quicker the return, the stronger the pattern becomes. After that, we remove the expectation of perfection. Perfection creates pressure. Pressure creates avoidance. And avoidance breaks rhythm. When you accept that the process will be imperfect, you stop treating mistakes like failures. You start treating them like part of the pattern. That shift allows you to keep moving instead of stopping. Every time something goes wrong, then we let repetition shape identity over time. At first it feels forced. It feels like you're pretending. It feels like you're acting like someone you're not. But if you stay with it long enough, that changes. The repetition makes it familiar. Familiarity makes it easier, and ease makes it natural. That's when it stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like who you are. And finally, we focus on returning, not performing. Performance is temporary. It's based on intensity and external validation. Returning is internal. It's quiet. It doesn't need to be seen, but it's what builds rhythm. When your focus shifts from doing it perfectly to simply coming back to it, you remove the pressure that usually breaks consistency, and what you build becomes something you can actually maintain. So if you feel like you're constantly starting over, it's not that you're incapable, it's that the rhythm keeps getting interrupted before it has time to build. And if you want to change that, you don't need to do more. You need to stay longer. Long enough for repetition to take hold. Long enough for disruption to lose its impact. Long enough for identity to form. Because once identity forms, everything changes. You don't have to think about it the same way anymore. You don't have to convince yourself. You don't have to rely on motivation. You just return. That's the rhythm. And once you find it, becoming isn't something you chase. It's something you maintain.